Yo, what is going on, you guys? It is Culture Shock. We are back with another video. I'm going to be giving you guys a brief update on the Colts injuries report, and I'm going to go ahead and preview the game between the Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts going into Week 6. Let's go ahead and hop into it. So, we got to start with the title of it, of course. If you guys do not know, it is the current update of Michael Pittman Jr., who is now dealing with a back injury. Of course, I think this is something that we've kind of seen. We kind of could have figured, honestly, just due to his recent production. We started to guess if he was dealing with an injury at all and just playing through it, or if something really was up, or maybe he was just playing sluggish. But the news came out today that the Colts just announced that he is dealing with an injury, a back injury. So he might be sidelined for next week or a few games. Who knows how the outcome may be, but it should be interesting moving forward. Honestly, this is a big hit for the Colts locker room. The Colts wide receiver room has just been banged up. Of course, you can start with, the Josh Downs situation. Now going into it, the Colts might be out. The Colts might be out of the games without their star wide receiver, which is Michael Pittman Jr., who just got broke off a nice little contract over last offseason. So it's going to be interesting to see how the situation is going to go moving forward without him. But like I said, back to the offense, they've been dealing with injuries with Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, Jonathan Taylor, now Trey Sermon's collarbone. So, I mean, the status for the Colts offense going into Friday, it's going to be very interesting to see how it's going to pan out to be against this division matchup against the Tennessee Titans. Last week they just played, a rivalry game against the Jacksonville Jaguars in which they almost pulled off. And now they got to go back to back weeks against another division rival, which is the Tennessee Titans. So it's going to be interesting to see, who's going to be available to play and who isn't. As of right now for the Titans, they don't, Jamal Adams, Traylon Burks, Keandre Coburn, DeAndre Hopkins, Jeffrey Simmons, L'Jarius Sneed, Cedric Gray, and Ernest Jones and Will Levis. Excuse me about that botch. Cedric Gray. Um, Ernest Jones and Will Levis are all on the injury status. So both of these teams are banged up going into this week. So who knows who may play or who may not play. But with the situation for the Colts, again, like I said, Anthony Richardson looking like he's aiming to come back this week, but potentially might be another week for Joe Flacco. Who knows? Will Fries just got injured, carted off, last week with that right tibia injury. So they're going to be out. The Colts are going to be out without the right guard, the starting right guard. So it's going to be a situation at hand to see, you know, once he steps away, how does the offensive line look with Dalton Tucker moving in? Tanner Bortolini already replaced Ryan Kelly, and now they're going to be replacing their right guard, which is banged up right now. And the Titans' defensive line, I would say they do pretty well with pressure going into the passing game for the year, going up against opposing offenses. So ranked 5 in the pass play percentage, um, you know, completion percentage, everything. Their defensive line does put pressure on teams. So it's going to be interesting to see how Joe Flacco is going to play against that. Even if it's not Joe Flacco, Anthony Richardson, his first game back is going up against a pretty stout defensive line. So it should be interesting to see how it pans out for the offensive line and the Indianapolis Colts and their quarterback situation if it's going to be Joe Flacco or Anthony Richardson. But I think, with last week's production, I think it should be an interesting one. Um, I would love to see who's going to play and who isn't going to play as starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. I would love for it to be Anthony Richardson, but I will not be surprised if it is Joe Flacco. Like I said, if it is Joe Flacco, I think this offense can still produce a lot of points. Big plays from Alec Pierce. Mo Ali Cox caught a touchdown. He could have had two, in my opinion. The run game was pretty decent. Could have been better with Jonathan Taylor, but I don't think it took a huge hit. The biggest hit was the defense of last week, and going up against Tennessee Titans team who is banged up. I will say honestly, this Tennessee Titans team could, even though regardless of the situation, what their record may look like or things of that nature, they're in the same predicament as the Jacksonville Jaguars. If you give them time to go out there and produce, they can pretty much go out there and produce with anyone, honestly. So this game is not, it's not a walk in the park for the Colts. I think it's a division game, so of course they're going to bring the best out of you, regardless of who's back there, quarterback or who isn't. So the Colts can't take this game lightly. Of course, they need to go out there and redeem themselves after last week's performance on the defensive side. The run game pretty much couldn't figure it out for the run defense couldn't figure it out for the Colts, and then in the air, Trevor Lawrence looked very comfortable. There wasn't a lot of pressure on him at all last week. Now, of course, this isn't breaking news because the Colts did lose a lot of players on that defensive line, but Quiddy Pay did return to practice this week, so that's a huge bonus for them going into this week, man. It really is a huge bonus for them because they do need some of their guys coming back because, I mean, they got to figure it out. Honestly, the season's still early. They still have a shot of making the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see, who's going to play and who's available and who isn't. But a few of their guys like Kenny Moore, Quiddy Pay did return to practice. So they need all the guys they can get to go out there and, try to get this division game, the division victory and, try to get on the right track before it starts to get cold outside for football. And then after this, they got to go out there and play Miami. So, I mean, winning this game would be a good momentum boost for them. I think they can bounce back and recover very easily in this game. Like I said, the run defense just has to be, they have to put pressure on Tennessee. It's that simple. I think if you can put pressure on Tennessee, regardless of the situation with what they have going on at the secondary position, they just released Dallas Flowers, which is a huge, huge update. A huge update. He's been battling injury, and they wind up placing him out there on the field. Giving him some runs, and they wind up cutting him last week. And David Long Jr. just got signed for the Indianapolis Colts. But this goes into the offseason. They didn't make any moves or splashes in free agency, anything of that nature. So now they're just left and picking up players and then wind up waiving them as well. So it's going to be they're just stuck in a situation where they're just cutting players, signing players when they could have had it all figured out in the offseason because there was a bunch of veterans out there out there to be picked up, and they didn't pull anyone. So, it's Dallas Flowers. It's unfortunate that he couldn't make the roster. He was just having a very bad season, in my opinion. And when he wound up getting cut, so I wonder what the Colts are going to be doing in the future before the trade deadline or anything of that nature. I think the state of the record for the Colts will play a huge part of that. So hopefully they can figure it out. But David Long Jr., like I said, did get called up to the 53-man roster. Spencer Schrader, a kicker for the Colts, signed, cut. He's on that roller coaster every year. Hopefully they can just leave him on the roster. I think he has a nice little leg on him for kicking that could be used going forward. So it's going to be interesting to see, man. But David Long Jr., 5'11", 196, usually is a slot corner, in my opinion, but he's going to be probably outside a few times. But he has a lot of experience in the NFL. So played for the Giants, got the Colts this year, played for the Packers, Panthers, Raiders, Rams in 2019 to 2022. So, like I said, he has experience. So he's pretty good coming out of Michigan. I think he'll be a pretty solid player to replace Dallas Flowers. It's going to be interesting to see what they do moving forward. They did also sign Trent Penix back to the practice squad. Trent Penix is 6'2", 234, big running back. So hopefully the Colts can figure it out this week, man. I really think I do have faith and confidence in them and pulling out the victory, but they just got to put pressure on the QB, honestly, and not have what they did last week with that performance from the defensive line. They got to put some type of pressure on the QB so it can make them uncomfortable and they can go out there and make some splashes. And being said that, after all of the situations that they went through last week with the pressure and everything on defense, Joe Flacco willed the deal to still gave them the chance to win the game. So honestly, I just don't want the offense to go out there and have a performance like they did last week, and the defense let them down. So it's going to be interesting to see how this defense performs. But you guys, let me know your thoughts on how you think the defense is going to perform this week against the Tennessee Titans. Let me know the situation about Dallas Flowers, Michael Pittman Jr. Does it scare you? And the right guard situation. Like I said, in due time, all of these, some of our playmakers are going to come back, and we're going to be rolling down the street with a lot of production. But like I said, we're missing a few pieces. So in due time, I don't think they're going to be out a lot. The situation with DeForest Buckner, his situation, he's going to be back sooner or later as well. So I think, in my opinion, I think Latu he could have himself a nice little week, a bounce back week from last week, because last week the defensive line, like I said, was very silent. So I think they're going to make some type of noise this week, and the Colts are going to get back on the winning track. But like I said, you guys let me know your thoughts. Who's gonna go out and show up on the defensive side or the offensive side? I just picked Latu for the defensive side for the Colts. Offensively, I'm gonna roll with Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce had himself some big splashes last week. I think he can take it up a notch, especially with the status of Michael Pittman Jr. I think he can go out there and probably have himself a big game against the Titans. Going to need all type of weapons, and A.D. Mitchell, Josh Downs, Alec Pierce. We're going to need all of those guys. Even Will Mallory. Will Mallory can have himself a big game if they can get him more involved in the system, who I think is a huge sleeper for the Colts, talent-wise. I think he can go out there and be a number one tight end for the Colts if they just put him on the field. So those are the guys I'm going to predict to have a nice game. Alec Pierce, Will Mallory, and Latu. But you guys let me know your thoughts. Until next time, I will see you after the game. This is Culture Shock. Have a good one.